Good morning, everyone, and welcome to USC Upstate. It's a beautiful day here on campus, and one of many beautiful days ahead under the leadership of our new incoming Chancellor, Bennie Harris, and his family, incoming First Lady Frankie Harris, and their children, Bria, Bennie, and Brandon. So welcome to your first press conference as members of the USC Upstate family. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here. This is certainly an exciting day in the history of USC Upstate as USC Upstate begins a new chapter of leadership. And so I appreciate you all being here. I certainly appreciate Trustee Tony Lister being here. Tony, thank you for your history of service to the university and USC Upstate in particular. We have with us the chair of our Commission for Higher Education, David Church. Thank you, David, for being here. We have Commissioners Ann Flynn. Thank you, Ann. And Scott Heath back there in the back. And we have our Foundation Board Chair, Karen Calhoun, as well. So thank you all for being here. And I hope did I miss any commissioners or Foundation Board members? I hope not. I want to get out of the gate okay here. Well, thank you all for your service to the university as well, and to all of you who are part of the university family, everything you do for the university. I'm going to be very brief here because our student government vice president, Gregory Castillo, is going to give further introductory remarks and introduce Dr. Harris, but it's been an honor to serve the university, and I look forward to continuing to work with Dr. Harris in a new capacity as we continue to build on the success of those who have come before us here at USC Upstate. And with that, Mr. Castillo, you will please come forward. Thank you all.
Good morning. I'm Greg Castillo, Vice President of the Student Government Association for the upcoming academic school year. It's an honor to be here and a pleasure to welcome Dr. Harris to campus. As you may know, Dr. Harris currently serves as the Senior Vice President for Institutional Advancement at the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia, a position he's held since 2014. Prior to that, he was Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations at Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. Harris's professional experience also includes executive administrative positions at DePaul University in Chicago, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and Washington State University. He has served as faculty throughout his career, focusing on courses in management, servant leadership, and strategic marketing. The Student Government Association looks forward to working closely with Dr. Harris on the issues that resonate with our students and to advance the mission of USC Upstate. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Bennie Harris.
Greg, thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to working with you and the student. Any other members of the Student Government Student Association? Will y'all stand, please? Give them a hand. And I think Aranda, that's how you pronounce his name, he received a internship. So he's not here because he has an internship, and he's actually doing what we want him to do. And so we're excited, and we're going to celebrate him as well. I want to definitely acknowledge our commissioners. David Church and I have been having a lot of conversations, and I'm excited about the leadership and the work that we are going to do together for this particular community. And I'm excited to have my family. So let me start by introducing them. I'm going to ask my wife to stand. Frankie. Thank you. Thank you. Frankie is, she's definitely my rock. She's my inspiration. I love you, honey, and thank you so much, and we got a wonderful ride ahead of us, okay? I want to introduce my children. My daughter, Bria, she's studying for her mini board, so to be here, she's making a wonderful sacrifice. She's in medical school right now at Morehouse School of Medicine. My son, Bennie, just completed his master's degree at Lipscomb University, working with UBS. I think there's a local UBS organization here as well, so that's exciting. Looking forward to working with them. And my son, Brandon, he's the youngest of the bunch and the tallest of all of us. So he's a phenomenal young man, and I really appreciate the three of them coming and taking time to be and share this moment with us. To our Board of Trustees, thank you so very much for being here and for your support. I'm going to ask the search committee, because I want you to blame them for the success that we're going to have. So I'm going to ask the search committee to stand. Thank you. I think Pam is here somewhere. She was the chair of the search committee. I think they did a wonderful job finding your next chancellor. Don't you think so? I think they did a phenomenal job. Ann and I had wonderful conversations, and she was part of my inspiration, whether she intended to be or not. I know she was trying to remain objective during the whole search process, but her beautiful smile just kept engaging me, encouraging me to engage. And I don't know if that's just her normal personality or she was doing it just for me. So I'm going to say she did it just for me. But thank you so very much. I think she has a son that's in Nashville, not far from Lipscomb University, where my kids, all our children went to school. So thank you, Ann, very much. Shortly after I was elected chancellor to lead this next era of USC Upstate, I was told that the decision to hire me received unanimous support from our Board of Trustees. And I was highly recommended by the search committee, the faculty and staff of the university community involved in the evaluation process. So for that, I thank you. I'm humbled by your support, the strong vote of confidence you have in me, and it is my objective to embrace your aspirations for the university, and 10, 20 years from now, you'll look back and feel exceptionally good about the decision you made to invite me into your community and to lead the University of South Carolina Upstate. I'm so excited about my leadership team. If they're here, I want them to raise their hand, the Chancellor's Cabinet. These are exceptional individuals, and they have worked extremely hard leading this community through some very, very difficult times. I want to personally acknowledge our interim chancellor, Durham Cole. Durham has done an exceptional job supporting me, being a friend to me, and helping me to really get acclimated into this community, into the role. He's taken on the leadership of, he took this institution to probably one of the most difficult times of its history. This COVID-19 pandemic is exceptionally difficult for the country, for every higher education institution. We're having the challenges of trying to get our students back and our family and our community back safely, and Durham has done a phenomenal job leading that effort. So let's pause and give him a round of applause, and thank you very much. When I think about a quote that Peter Drucker said, leadership is lifting a person's vision to high heights, the raising of a person's performance to a higher standard, and the building of a personality beyond its normal limitation. It affirms my commitment to servant leadership and the imperative, I think I can do this without my glasses if I stand this far, and the imperative nature of leading with a shared vision. I learned so much during my interview and during the months after the selection as chancellor about the strengths and the resilience within the USC Upstate and Spartanburg community and the Upstate region. I saw the resilience of the institution. I saw Dr. Shalitha Lee and Ms. Mary Butcher successfully lead us weekly, telling us about the challenges of COVID-19 and how we're going to mitigate those challenges as an institution. I saw their enthusiasm and their resilience in doing that, taking on additional responsibilities to help with our students, our faculty, and our staff. I see our deans and leaders asking questions. What are the greatest opportunities and needs of the community, and how can we serve? I see our faculty and our students committed to getting back together, to getting back into a community, working together to inspire them. You see, my purpose and mission is to inspire and develop young people to change the world. So Greg, when I look at you and your colleagues, it is my hope and my inspiration that the things that we do here will help you to make a difference in your community, would help you to make a difference in this world. So, my aspirations for USC Upstate are twofold: to innovate and transform USC Upstate to participate in the changing dynamics of higher education, turn around enrollment and enrollment growth, financial sustainability, and new forms of revenue. And second, to be a viable force and a force multiplier in the economic development of the Upstate region. To achieve this, I will have to work with my team to create a shared vision around those objectives, to support the aspirations of our students, and to attract new generations of students. To fund our work, we will have to increase our focus on fundraising and building the university's endowment. To create partnerships, joint ventures with businesses, envisioning new ways to achieve our goals, and to establish the role of USC Upstate as a talent developer with more than 30,000 alumni who choose to live and work in the 10-county region that is Upstate. To engage and partner with our legislators to understand and create alignment between their greatest aspirations and our strengths as a community. To lead the region and the country in promoting the value of diversity and inclusion. To appreciate the changing nature of this country and the leadership required to embrace those changes. To achieve this, I will work with my team to focus on retaining faculty and staff and competitively attracting new faculty and staff. To evaluate the USC Upstate brand and value proposition, and to make the University of South Carolina Upstate a destination of choice. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That was a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. This morning I sat in the Blue Mountain restaurant for breakfast. The hour and a half time that I sat there and ate there, I encountered only things that one finds in a community like Spartanburg. I met and learned the story of Chris Wishbone Walter and his daughter Molly, who founded the Blue Moon Restaurant and Specialty Foods. Wishbone, as he liked to be called, contributes to the culture and the character of Spartanburg. He and Molly's business model is about people and empowering their employees to have their families and to expand the quality of life. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, his business model did not suffer as many did. However, the immense amount of empathy that he showed in telling the stories of surrounding businesses and friends of his throughout the country made me even more grateful to have met him. As I sat there, I looked around and I met Reverend Sean Parker, Reverend Bobby McFalls, and Mr. Danny Charles. Wow, what an amazing group of individuals. They have a Bible study twice a week, and naturally they invited me to be a part of it at 7 a.m. in the morning. Reverend McFall, an 88-year young, and he has preached in more than 90 counties. I couldn't help but ask him to pray a prayer of blessing over me, which they obliged, and I'm forever grateful. When I returned, because I was running late and my wife saying, Bennie, you need to get back here so we can be on time, I returned to my children, Bria, Brandon, and Bennie, and they asked if they could pray over me in my journey of leadership, and they prayed that I will continue to have the boldness and humility that they know me to have. This was only accentuated by a prayer that my wife prayed right before I went to bed over me, and for that I'm grateful and I'm humble. These are the stories of a community that is resilient and relentless, and the one that thrives. I have spent time getting to know our many donors, our trustees, our foundation board members, our higher education commissioner members. I've spent time getting to know our faculty senate chair, Dr. Lisa Johnson, and our incoming chair, Dr. Carmen Harris. I met with our provost, Dr. David Schechter. Did I pronounce that right, David? Thank you. And I've looked at the pride that we have in USC Upstate. The George Dean Johnson Jr. College of Business has 6 new programs. There were once concentration in business, but now there are new programs with 4 majors: economics and finance, accounting, management, marketing, logistics, and supply chain, and management, and entrepreneurship and innovation. The Mary Black School of Nursing, and the wonderful work. This is our foundational school and our foundational relationships. The collaboration they do with local hospitals. They recently enhanced their clinical nurse leader program, adding nurse education and nurse leadership tracks that provide new options for registered nurses to learn advanced degrees. USC Upstate faculty recently were awarded 2 prestigious federal grants. Dr. Stefan Bismarck from the School of Education, Human Performance and Health is the principal investigator of a $1.2 million grant from the National Science Foundation. A second group of USC Upstate faculty from the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science and the School of Human Performance and Health recently won a $86,000 grant from the National Endowments for Humanities. Both these grants are going to do phenomenal things for our communities, our learners, and building those bridges. And this fall, USC Upstate will roll out South Carolina Central Latino, the state's first ever university-based center for the study and the appreciation of Latinx students, faculty, and staff, commonly named El Centro. I talked to Dr. Hernandez LaRoche and Maria Monteso. I hadn't talked to Maria, but Dr. LaRoche and she and I talked about this wonderful program and it being a national model that we can roll out and create certificate programs all around the country. USC Upstate is among 15 area organizations that have joined together to form the Spartanburg Racial Equity Collaborative. Among these partner organizations are the City of Spartanburg, the Mary Black Foundation, Regenus Healthcare, Spartanburg County, Spartanburg School District 7, and the United Way of the Piedmont, all of which have come together to realize a mission to eliminate racial inequity in Spartanburg County through racial healing and system changes. Our own Assistant Vice Chancellor for Regional Engagement, Mr. Stacy Mills, leads this wonderful work. Not just in the academic arena, we have reason to be very proud in our athletic arena as well. USC Upstate Athletics ended the season strong, having finished as a runner-up in the Big South for men's soccer. Head coach Scott Halkett was named Big South Coach of the Year. For a first time, the Spartans have individual champions in both men and women golf. Head women golf coach Todd Lawton was voted Big South Conference Coach of the Year. Softball finished the regular season in second place, while baseball set a D1 era record with its 34th win of the season. The volleyball program ended this spring scheduled on a 6-match and an 18-set winning streak, both Division I era records. I want us to pause just for 1 minute and give yourselves a hand for all the wonderful accomplishments that you are doing. I've established a transition team that includes both external and internal individuals, stakeholders, and some of them are here today, and their purpose solely is to help me to do the very best I can to build an exceptionally strong USC Upstate. And finally, I recall the advice my mother gave me. Her name is Charlie Mae Harris. That's a good Southern name. She's no longer with us in the flesh, but she's definitely here with me in spirit. She would tell me, Bennie, live life with an empty cup. You can always learn from others. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you can listen twice as much as you talk. She was teaching me lessons of humility. Humility and passion are the 2 things that give you the cutting edge when working with people. My goal is to listen and to learn as much as I can, to live every encounter with an empty cup, and to give each of you the opportunity to put something in my cup. Thank you all, and I'm open for questions. But before we get started with questions, I'm going to ask Michelle and Rosemary to raise their hand. Where are they? They have been phenomenal. You know, I don't start officially until July 1, right? But I feel like I've already started. But they have been phenomenal in keeping my schedule booked and helping to manage that. So thank you all very much. Any questions? Honey, will you pass me that towel, please? I'm not sweating because I'm nervous. I'm sweating because of this humidity. Questions? This is going to be the easiest press conference I've ever experienced. And I should be thankful right there. I have 2 primary goals that I spoke of, and it's important that we hear this. One is to innovate and to transform USC Upstate to participate in the changing dynamics of higher education. That's one. And that's important. Online enrollment is a big population for students. The changing dynamics, I think our students have experienced virtual education, right? Our faculty and staff have experienced a virtual career that works. And I think it's going to be hard to have an exclusive one method of delivering education. So we have to be prepared for that. And I think we can lead it. Too often, we find ourselves following what others are doing and trying to respond to that and fit it within our model. I think it's time for us to create models that work for us, that are leading, and that folks will look at USC Upstate and say, wow, how did y'all do that? And so my goal is for us to transform and to innovate this institution, that we will be a model for how a regional comprehensive exists and does it very well. My second goal is to be a valuable force and a multiplier. And I'm saying that it's 2 different things, to be a main force. When people think of the Spartanburg Upstate community, they think immediately about USC Upstate as a partner. And to be a multiplier and the economic development of the Upstate region. This region is growing, and this region is going to grow about 40% over the next several years. And I want our share right here in Spartanburg and Spartanburg County, and to continue to expand. We are important to the viability and the economic development of this area, and I want us to stand up and be shown. We have a great community college system. How are we partnering with them and have an articulation agreement that allows for immediate transfer from that partnership right into our community? If we don't take our students, somebody will. And we will be looking and saying, how did Georgia and North Carolina and everybody else got our students when they're right here? We cannot afford to have an entitlement perspective of education, because competition allows for everyone to participate. Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie King Mattingly, the Carolinian.
Okay.
As we look ahead to the fall and the return of students, faculty, what is your position on mask wearing and vaccines?
Well, Dr. Lee just gave me a position that I'm going to take. I listen to the science and the clinicians, and I think it's very important. One of the reasons I wear my mask, not because I am trying to protect myself, because I'm vaccinated, and I think that's critically important. My family, my children, my daughter is a medical student. Everything she learns, she brings back home, and we have to comply with it, right? Or we have to hear it constantly. So that is critically important, okay? our state does not allow us to mandate masks. So we can commiserate over that however we want to, but the reality is we can't do it. But I think the power of leadership is persuasion. Okay, to partner with our students, to help us to persuade our students how important it is to be vaccinated and to wear masks. Not just for you, but for those around you. Unfortunately, I have the sad case of having people very close to me, not distant folks that I read about in the Wall Street Journal, I read about in the Washington Post, I read about folks who are in immediate proximity to me who chose not to get vaccinated, and right now they are on respirators in hospital fighting for their lives. Okay, I think we have a community responsibility because I care about each of you, so I wear a mask for them, okay? And I think we can have the power of persuasion around that. If we're gonna get control of this pandemic, and if we're gonna get into our stores and have a vibrant student community and sporting community like we wanna have and have our students to be safe, we wanna be able to do that. We don't know what's gonna happen with our little children, right? So my position on wearing a mask is that it is strongly encouraged to do it, okay? And we're looking every day and having conversations about how to incent, and as close as we can get to a mandate, we will, but we really can't get to a mandate just yet. But as close as we can get to it, we're gonna try to encourage that. We're bringing our students back into the classroom. Those classrooms that will allow for us to sit 3 feet apart, we're gonna do that based on the World Health Organization's requirement, and anything else we can do to encourage that. So it's an ongoing conversation. I don't have a final response to that because it's a continuous conversation. It's changing every day, okay? The emergency use that the FDA is allowing for these vaccines now doing a lot of clinical trials in children under 12 years old. So what's the outcomes for that? We will learn. So we don't know all the answers to any of this, but we have some wonderful people here with Spartanburg Regional Hospital System, our faculty in the School of Nursing and elsewhere who are helping to inform and helping us to get as close to a mandate as we can. But again, I think the stories and the power of persuasion is what we're going to really lean towards. Okay. That's a long answer to a short question, but it's a big issue. Other questions? Do you have a follow-up?
I do.
Well, until someone else says something, you can follow up.
Okay. Well, there's faculty that's concerned about whether they're going to be in the classroom or remote. How do they make those decisions?
Well, some of the decisions have already been made that we have to come back. That's a state mandate, right? So there will be case-by-case situation where we will have the opportunity to look at. But we do have the legislators and the governor and our system have also given us some direction. So we're going to follow much of those directions and those situations that are health or other type of accommodation, we will look to our HR policies to figure out how to support our faculty and our staff that. We definitely will. Yes.
Over here. What will be some of your first actions as Chancellor?
What will be some of my first action as Chancellor? My first action really would be listening. I don't know if listening is really an action, but is it an action? Who are English? It's an action, okay. So my first action really is going to be taking my empty cup around and listening. Listening to the fears, the concerns, the enthusiasm, the passion. Listen to our business community. Listen to our legislators, our trustees, hearing what they're saying, hear what they see. Sometimes it's important for us to hear and see how people see us. I think oftentimes when we live in our own community, we kind of miss the excellence that exists. And everything I've heard so far about USC Upstate has been exceptional. And so we have no reason to feel apprehensive about anything as it relates to how people see us regarding the viability and the role that we play in this community. So my first action is going to be spending a lot of time listening. I'm going to spend a lot of time with our faculty and our students. I think that's critically important. There are a lot of internal things that we're going to do. I think it's important that we have a staff senate or some level of staff governance so our staff can get involved. I think we had that once and it has it fizzled off, and so we want to start that back. So there are a lot of internal things that I will learn. I've already spent time, I've interviewed, I think every dean that we've had, both our current deans and incoming deans and asked what are their greatest aspirations, what are some things that they want to do. I think I've interviewed and had a conversation with each of my cabinet members, asking the same thing. Lisa Johnson, our current Lisa Johnson, right? Okay. Our current chair of the Faculty Senate, she and I have had some great conversation. I had a conversation with Dr. Carmen Harris as well, and Dr. Johnson about the faculty issues and some of their concerns, and I'm looking to learn more about that. Our provost is going to be very, very helpful. So my first action is really going to spend a lot of time listening. And then I will chart a course of action. On July 22nd, my executive team and I will have a retreat where we would chart a vision for the institution in terms of how we want to revisit our strategic plan and what has changed that we need to change within the context of our strategic plan. Things have changed since we last did that, right? So we need to think about the change in the education environment and how we need to update that as well. Help me recognize hands because other hands. Let me see if there's someone else first before you. If not, then you again. Yes, please.
So you've been quoted as saying it's important to create programs that respond to new employment needs.
Mm-hmm.
What are those needs as you see them, and does that mean we do something different? We offer new programs?
It may. I think a role of higher education is to help to develop a workforce for careers that don't currently exist. Would you think about that for a minute? When I graduated, there was no such thing as advanced analytics. There was no such thing as social media, what y'all call it, social media influencers, right? There was no such thing as that, okay? However, my education should have prepared me to be responsive to those opportunities. So when I think about how we learn and how we teach and what may be out there, if you think about change in technology, the amount of change that has occurred in 1 century as compared to 1,000 years has been phenomenal, unimaginable, okay? So the time has really shrunk with regard to change. You know, before we had horse buggies and the wheel for several millennials, right? Several thousand years. And all of a sudden, we learned to build a car, and then we learned to fly, and then we had super flight, and then we had blah, 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 and that all happened within 100 years or less. Think about telecommunication. From the Pony Express to now we got these flip phones that, well, we can watch television and stuff. I think in the 1970s, when they were talking about having a television type of, where you can see people on the other end, I'm like, wow, there's no way they can do that. Wow. We won't talk without it, right? So when we talk about those types of degrees, I don't know what they are, but I want a faculty and a community that's nimble enough to say, we're not gonna look at change in the rearview mirror and say, I wish we coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's what happened with the newspaper industry, right? I love my media, so if you're in the newspaper, I appreciate you. But part of what happened to us in that industry, we end up looking at change in the rearview mirror. When we looked around, content was no longer controlled by the reporters. Content was controlled by anybody that had something to say in a cell phone. And we just had not prepared for that change in dynamics. So we got to think about that. We got to think about our curriculum and ask the question, how can we be much more nimble in English? How can we be much more nimble in mathematics? You got actuary science, you got all types of things that you can prepare people for careers that can expand their math degree. So as we think about degrees and general education and what degrees we're gonna have, et cetera, we may think, how can we add concentration to those core content that can prepare people for the workforce? Okay? I think my son was telling me my answer was too long. I think he whispered to his mom, I think Dad's is that what you said? Okay. Other questions. Okay, going once. Going twice. Okay. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you for your time. I think we're going to have a meet and greet with everyone. What do we call that? The terrace. It's a beautiful site. This is a beautiful, phenomenal campus. I am so excited to be here. I really am. And I just love it. And so I'm looking forward to being here. And I think everybody got to know Gerald through the search process. And he's been a great person to know. I've gotten to know all of you. So I definitely appreciate it as well. So again, thank you. And let's go in. Are we having food over there or just shaking hands? We having snacks? Let's go and have a few snacks. Real little bitty snacks.